Good afternoon once again. I, Kirti Sudha, on behalf of NIEPID Regional Center, Kolkata, I welcome you all for this webinar on computerized assessment and intervention for persons with autism spectrum disorder, development and application in rehabilitation. We'll start our session soon. We are still waiting for a few more participants to join in. Thank you so much for those who have found time and joined for this webinar. Before we start our webinar, I would request you all to kindly keep your videos and audios on mute. Kindly, after completion of this webinar, we will share the feedback form link. Kindly fill the feedback form. If any one of your friends or colleagues who have registered but could not join to the Google Meet, and if they get in touch with you, kindly tell them that they can even watch this webinar live on YouTube, and even you can put your questions in the chat box either in Google Meet or on the YouTube. We will try to include most of your questions as and when the time permits. After the session of our resource person, Professor Uttama Lahiri, we will have a dedicated time for question and answers. So that will be at the end of the session. So kindly jot down your questions and then you may ask, or you can even write your questions in the chat box. Those who will fill the feedback form will only receive the participation certificate. So kindly make sure that after the webinar, you also fill the feedback form. I thank you once again and welcome you all. Um, Good afternoon once again. I, Kirti Sudha Rajput, lecturer in rehabilitation psychology, welcome you all to this webinar on computerized assessment and intervention for persons with autism spectrum disorder, its development and application in rehabilitation. I'm very glad to mention that today for this webinar, we are having the resource person, Professor Uttama Lahiri from IIT Gandhinagar. And I'm also glad to share, ma'am, that we have got registrations around 451 from across country. We have got registrations from Jammu and Kashmir, Andaman Nicobar, Rajasthan, Delhi, Haryana, Chandigarh, Punjab, Kerala, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Jharkhand. I mean, MP. I mean, you can say almost all states we have got participants from, and we are really happy to have such a wide group of participants with us. First, before at the beginning of this webinar, I would request our officer in charge, Mr. T. Mukesh sir, to kindly give the introduction about this theme of this webinar and his opening remarks. Over to you, Mukesh sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Kirti. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. So, at the outset, it's my privilege to welcome all the participants for this one-hour webinar, which is going to be held on the topic of computerized assessment and intervention for autism spectrum disorders and development application in the field of rehabilitation. And on behalf of Regional Center, I extend our heartfelt and warm welcome to today's resource person, Dr. Uttama Lahiri, Madam, who is the Associate Professor Electrical Engineering from IIT Gandhinagar. It's our privilege to have you on board with us, ma'am, and we hope that in future we'll be doing more and more collaborative and more meaningful work with you also. So, so in fact, like we're organizing this program on a Saturday, so we're wondering like how will be the response, and that too post lunch. So we had so many thoughts going on in our minds that the response what we got was really overwhelming. So we, in fact, like for that reason, we opened our YouTube live also. So thanks for the response from the participants.
Tracking.
Yeah, if there is any voice issues, प्लीज बेयर विद अस. समटाइम्स नेटवर्क इश्यू में थोड़ा फ्लक्चुएशन होगा, देन धीरे धीरे वो सेट हो जाएगा. ओके, सो
माउथ से बहुत क्लोज है इसलिए वॉइस क्रैक कर रहा है.
सुनाई दे रहा है अभी ठीक से आपको?
Yeah. Am I better now? Is my voice?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is suggested that if there is a little more distance in the microphone, that is what participants have suggested. Maybe that will work. Thank you, sir. Yeah.
No. Yeah, fine. So actually, like as we all know, like autism spectrum disorders is one of the most challenging disorder what we will be handling in our day-to-day practice because of the complexity of the issues. Their issues range from sensory, social, communication, and all the aspects of development are affected in these children, and it is a very, very challenging condition because of the pathophysiology associated with that. And the latest development in the field is like trying to come out with a computerized, digitalized version of conducting the assessment for these autistic children, as well as planning out intervention methods for this group of children. Because of the voluminous numbers, rather than going on a manual version, if at all we have a computerized version that can make the work faster for us. But at the other end, there are so many studies which say that prolonged exposure to screen complicates the pre-existing issues of autism children also. So it is a kind of a most challenging area where we have to be bringing all the aspects together so that a more useful and more meaningful kind of a one which doesn't turn into be a counterproductive for this group can be developed. So it's a need of the hour, and the topic is also very much in line with the need of the hour. And that's the reason probably we feel that there's so many participants who showed interest in this program. So on that note, we hope like Madam with her vast expertise, she will be delivering her best to so that like we all have an enlightening listening experience to Ma'am. Actually, our deputy director, the director officiating for us, he was showing interest to join our program, but unfortunately at the last minute he got stuck with some other commitments, so he conveyed his wishes for the program also. I hope like probably at the end, if time permits, he may join us for some brief period of time. Notwithstanding, it's a very good topic, and then the participants also will be very enthusiastic, and we all are looking forward to listening to you, ma'am. Thank you. And then I request Ms. Geeti to do the brief and go ahead with the procedure. Thank you, and over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. It is really pleasure to have Professor Uttama Lahiri, ma'am. And with just a very brief conversation, she agreed to us. She agreed to conduct this particular session with us. So thank you, ma'am. Thank you for that. Before we start with her session, I would like to share a brief introduction about her. Our resource person of this webinar, Professor Uttama Lahiri, she has received her master's from IIT Kharagpur and PhD from Vanderbilt University, USA. Currently, she is an associate professor at Electrical Engineering, IIT Gandhinagar, India. One of the important focus areas of her research has been on effective computing for individuals with autism, in which she had been using physiology-based modeling techniques to address their social communication skill deficits. Her research interests include physiological signal processing, virtual reality-based affective computing and rehabilitation, eye tracking, and adaptive intelligent techniques. As a part of her research endeavors, she had been closely working with individuals with autism and actively collaborating with both national and international special needs organizations for last 14 years. Besides presenting her research at several international journals and conference venues, she has also written a book titled A Computational View of Autism, using virtual reality technologies in autism intervention, published by Springer Computer Science, Switzerland. Ma'am, over to you. Thank you so much for joining in our webinar, and over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, madam. It's my privilege to be there with a very cherished group of individuals who are interested in autism research. I hope I'll be able to do justice to your time. I'm telling to all the attendees, I'll try my best. So in fact, I will try to sort of give a glimpse of the type of work I have been doing so far. I'll first share my slide. But before starting, am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Okay. So let me start, and maybe I will take away my video for the time being to save the bandwidth.
Okay.
Then just share my screen. I hope my screen is visible.
Ma'am, it's coming.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. It's visible. Yeah,
Perfect. Perfect. So, and another thing, Dr. Rajput, if you feel that I am moving too fast or I need to slow down, please let me know, because there might be network issues and I don't want to move too fast. That will spoil the very purpose of today's beautiful discussion which we are having. So please feel free to stop me.
Sure, ma'am. Sure.
So a brief about my research experience, so as to get the discussion in the right direction. So I have been working with different data acquisition, myself being an engineer, electrical engineer. So I have been mostly working with different data acquisition, signal processing techniques, but my application has been with children with autism. So I have been working with eye tracking, biofeedback, signal processing, sensory fusion, data mining, machine learning, and even I have been working with process automation because of my experience in industrial settings, industry as well. But at the heart, it has been all AI-based engines and AI-based systems, intelligent systems. So that is what is there at the heart of all the systems. And my research has been focused in three broad areas. One is adaptive human-computer interaction, which is mostly for children with autism and also for individuals with movement disorders. Also, I've been working on adaptive human-robot interaction, which I'll be not presenting today, again for children with autism, particularly with reference to joint attention skills. I have been working. And also my other side is robot-assisted surgical techniques, because I do a lot of signal processing. I sort of enjoy the signal processing in that domain as well. So the major focus areas for today's presentation is virtual reality-based human-computer interaction used in affective computing, eye tracking, and physiology-based modeling. I'll be presenting and adaptive intelligent techniques in cognitive research. My lab is named as Intelligent Rehabilitation Affective Computing Systems Lab, which is situated at IIT Gandhinagar. So a brief. So I have been mostly focusing on social communication. So before starting, we need to know what is social communication, why it is important. Does children with autism have issues with social communication, and what needs to be done in that case? So I'll start with a very brief sort of a definition with social communication. It's the set of skills which are used to engage with one's peers within social situations, that is social settings. In fact, you can see it is very important that a child should be able to express his or her feelings, and also some child also should be able, in fact, the children should be able to understand the feelings of others. So it's very important. You need to express one's feeling and also ability to understand others' feelings. Also, there are certain unspoken rules which are there in conversation, such as proximity, looking pattern. So there are different types of unspoken rules, like looking at the speaker. So you should know that a lot of research has gone on how we look at the speaker, and then we know that the speaker is attending to what I am, or the audience is attending to, the listener is attending to what I am saying. So looking is something very important. Also, maintaining proper distance. between the speaker and the communicator. So say a proximity. What is the proximity? So it's a decorum proximity or very close proximity, which of course differs from countries, in different countries. So I started working in the US. There the notion of distance is something different, but when I come in India, the notion of distance is again totally different. So of course it depends on the social situations. So you can see in the figure below bottom, of course, we can make out these two individuals sitting in a park. They don't have any social communication. So proximity or the social distance is something very important. In my research, I have also explored dimensions of social distance, which I'll not present today. And one of the important things which I'll be presenting today is facial emotional expression and gestures. How can one interpret the emotional expressions, or is the person approachable, or is the person not liking what I am saying? From the emotional expressions and the gestures, we can easily make out. Also, it's important to take turns. That means in social communication, it's very important to have reciprocation. I speak, you speak, and then again I speak, I reciprocate. And then in this way, we can go ahead in our social conversation. And while building social and particularly while being involved in social tasks. And also, it's important that you have knowledge on the topic of the social situation, because otherwise the discussion cannot progress. Now, why social communication is so important, particularly from the point of view of building social relationships, and also ability to work in teams, also communicate with teammates, peers. So this is something very important. So the next question comes, what happens if there is a difficulty in social communication? I do not know how to respond appropriately in a social situation. Maybe I'm not being able to understand whether my listener is liking or not liking, similar to now I'm seeing in front of a screen and I cannot see your faces. So it's difficult for me whether you are liking the discussion or not. So it's a jokes apart. Of course, if people are unaware of the proximity, whether you are standing too close or too far, and also have difficulty looking at the speaker. So there's a lot of research which has gone on how we view the viewing needed from a speaker's perspective and from a listener's perspective. It's a very well-known 30-70 rule is there. I'll not go into these details as of now. Also, if there is a difficulty in the social communication, they cannot interpret others' emotions and they have difficulty in understanding another person's perspective, which is very important, like putting yourself into the shoes of the others. And also have difficulty remaining hooked to the same topic of discussion. Otherwise, the conversation cannot proceed. Finally, why this is so critical for autism spectrum disorder? Because they are often characterized by abnormal or impaired development in the social interaction and communication. They often show interest in specific activities. Also, they cannot express their feelings very explicitly. So we need alternate techniques by which we can understand what they are feeling. And that is where I use my physiology-based modeling. And also to understand others' preference, that is putting yourself into the shoes of the others. And all of these lead to issues related to planning and also adapting based on others' preferences, and because of which the collaborative team building task cannot proceed. So these are the issues. And this is particularly important because we know the prevalence rate is quite high even in India. So what can be done to improve social communication? Of course, we can go for a casual discussion in a very intervention setting. In an intervention setting, this casual discussion can be very informed discussion, like most psychiatrists or interventionists do. In fact, they are very expert individuals who have been trained in the art, and also encouraging the child to play with the teacher, say using toys. So sort of role-playing, bringing in role-playing situations. These have been shown in literature very powerful, and also using short social stories, which why I am stressing this social stories. This is where in my research I have tried to bring in social stories in my intervention paradigm. Also, in this, it will be narrating social stories, helping build social scenarios, and also understanding important nuances. So it's like some sort of very subtle nuances in social situations, such as if someone asks, I can tell that, okay, I'll try my best to answer. But at the same time, it's also good to say, no, I don't know. Sometimes if you have to also say that maybe if I don't know, it's nothing bad in it. So these are very subtle nuances people or children should understand. And also role play situations and offer turn picking tasks. So these are the modalities which have been shown very powerful in intervention settings. Of course, working collaboratively. That is something very important. Now, a brief on the conventional observation-based behavioral techniques. Here you can see it's a one-on-one setting where the interventionist spends time, and it's a very crucial cream times spent with the child. These are very highly structured one-on-one settings, but of course, these are quite costly, very expensive, and often it is not affordable to the masses. Also, you will find that the number of trained professionals in this art is very limited. So getting access to this trained service providers is also often difficult, because it is very difficult to keep up with the pace of increasing prevalence of children with autism. So something needs to be done. An alternative technique, and when I say alternative, it is not replacement. So this I always say in all my talks, it is not at all a replacement of the conventional techniques. Conventional techniques are our gold standard even to us like engineers. So obviously we take inputs from conventional techniques, but it can be complementary technique. When I say alternative, these are complementary techniques which can be very useful to the clinician, where a single clinician may cater to maybe 10 children at the same time. So it is sort of increasing or providing a complementary tool. There are robotic-based solutions, and there are computer and virtual reality-based solutions. Here, in my research, I have been using a lot of VR, virtual reality. So a brief before going ahead to my VR-based solutions, I just felt like giving a single slide on what is VR. What is it? It is a simulation of the real world situation, of course, in 3D projection, but projected to a 2D environment, say. So it can be an immersive reality, or it can be, say, a 2D VR, like on a computer screen. Of course, the advantages of VR are many. You can easily control the difficulty level. Also, you can change the game paradigm or task paradigm based on one individual need. For example, if I'm anxious, I might change my task. Or if I'm not anxious and I'm doing well, then I can very easily program my task to give a higher difficulty level. Of course, there are ways in which you can do mistakes, but the system will tolerate you doing mistakes, so it offers safety before going ahead to the real hard world. Also, it offers real-time feedback, and it's very motivating and rewarding for these individuals. And I have been working for the last almost 14 years, and I have seen children enjoying interacting with VR. Of course, we can also develop various, so the question obviously comes, VR, actually these children are alienated from this society. Are we alienating these children far more from by using VR? No, that is not the case. In fact, we can bring in virtual characters or avatars who can be very real representations of, say, the therapists. And so if we can try to equip the avatar with different social skills. So that is sort of the idea. So I'll not go into all these details for saving of time. But of course, it's very important that we develop collaborative skills. So collaborative virtual intervention environment is what I have tried to achieve, where many children play together with the computer-based environment in which they can do mistakes, but at the same time, they enjoy the art of team building. So that is what I have tried to do. So here you can see there are different research studies that have worked on the collaborative environments where people have to put their hands or fingers together on an object, and then only the object can move, like in the middle figure and in the figure below. Also, you might think that virtual reality is so powerful. Then what is the problem in the existing VR-based solutions? You will find that there are no standard guidelines as far as proximity and eye gaze is concerned. So the people have not used very consciously specific proximity and eye gaze, which we have done in our study. Also, very few studies have combined emotional expression being embedded in social situations along with proximity and eye gaze. For example, a happy face or an angry face kept far away and an angry face kept very close have two different connotations. So what is the interaction effect between these different possibilities? People have not done. In fact, many people have done a lot of studies. Many researchers have done VR-based studies, but these are mostly single user-based, where the child interacts with the VR. This is a problem. And if there are multiple participants in the same task, you will find that these are mostly very very methodical, systematic problem-solving tasks, where there is not much thought required what my partner is feeling, what my partner's sentiment is. It is sort of very methodical, like a tic-tac game, where you are putting one block after another and trying to solve a logical puzzle. So here also you can see this is all from different literature where people have been cleaning a pond, that is the task where people have been doing together. But again, it's a definite task. The children have been provided and they don't need to think, okay, what my partner is thinking in this process. That is what is the subtle social fragrance which we have tried to bring in our research. Of course, that is what I was trying to say. They don't understand each other's preference. For example, I prefer X. I will go with X. But it might be he prefers the person X and I prefer something else. Maybe I prefer Y. But it's okay. Let me support him. So that is the inner understanding which we need to develop and which we can inculcate in our children with autism. And last but not the least is providing biofeedback. Say, can we develop systems where we know how the child is feeling from the heartbeat, or how the child is feeling when he is thinking from his prefrontal cortex, how his EEG signal is, providing biofeedback and making the system adaptive to one's affective state. That is, say, adaptive to anxiety, adaptive to engagement, adaptive to alertness, if we can do such systems. So these are the references. So with that, let me start the first the topic is the peripheral physiology aided virtual reality based social communication skill training for autism. By peripheral physiology, I mean it's like, say, the heart rate or my sweating or what's my skin temperature. So based on that, can we develop adaptive systems? So the basic idea is, because in this also, we have been trying to work on this social communication, and I will skip these particular points because I have already spoken, and to keep time, let me go ahead with telling that it has a problem, which is the additional point. It has a problem that these children have problem. They cannot distinguish between how to interact with a friend or a family member or a stranger. So it is totally different because the three are totally have a different connotation, social connotation or social attachment with the child. And also they have difficulty in starting a conversation and maintaining the conversation. So these are sort of problems these children face. Also, here I have tried to address the social communication deficits through providing social stories. And these have been shown very powerful in literature particularly for improving the social behavior of individuals with autism. So one of the main ideas which I have been using in my research is if a child cannot learn the way we teach, maybe we should teach the way they learn. It is something very important. Maybe we should understand that it is our failure that we are not being able to communicate to them because they are intelligent and they are very smart children, but the way they receive knowledge is something different. So can we sort of change our training paradigm so as to suit their requirement? So this is sort of the guiding principle throughout in my research. So here, in the first problem, the first topic, I'm trying to show the VR-based social communication system where I designed 2 set of tasks. It's all with my PhD students I have been working. First interaction task 1 and interaction task 2. The idea was to provide a realistic interactive VR environment and also to provide different social tasks so that the challenges faced in traveling in a bus or the challenges faced in traveling to a restaurant might be similar to certain extent. Say you are all managing with yourself with different social beings. And also in the social interaction task 2, I've been looking towards the subtle emotional cues. In other words, is the child able to understand the social emotional expression cues? And if not, what can we do in order to improve their ability? In this task, we have used different types of questions. Some are very context relevant. For example, say I have gone to a restaurant. The context relevant question can be, where did you go? Projected contingent can be, okay, say the avatar has told the story of his experience of being in a restaurant. The projected where the avatar have not told that what happened when there was a rush hour or when there was a very lunch session or in the afternoon when it was very highly crowded. What did he do? So we can project situations where it is very projected contingent, where the children has to think through different points and then only respond. Or it can be simple emotion recognition, like the avatar is expressing his or her sentiments, feelings, and whether the child is able to understand or recognize the emotion, and also how the child personally felt, because this is something very important. So this is the type of task which we have done, where it is understanding social etiquettes, where we present the child virtual environment. All these virtual environments we have designed in our lab. The child is exposed to a restaurant environment where you can see there are 3 tables, 1, 2, and 3. So 1 being totally empty, 3 being partially empty, and 4 being almost full, 2 being almost full. So in that case, if the child goes and sits in one table, then it's nothing of a social etiquette, which he is showing because he has gone straight and sat at the empty table. But if the child goes and sits at the table 3, then, and without asking any permission from the occupants who are already there in the table, then the avatar will tell, maybe you did not do the right thing, why not you ask permission, because it is a social etiquette. Maybe those 2 seats were meant for someone else. Or it can be very situations where it's hard situations for the child, where all the tables are completely full and the child is given projected situations and very unexpected event. What will you do? Wait for all the seats to be empty, shout at the counter, or ask for food delivery options, so where you can pack food. If the child selects, say, the 2, that is shout at the counter, then an avatar will come and tell, it's not the right thing, you shouldn't do, it's an unexpected event, better you might choose for other options. So sort of hand-holding our system does. Also, it can be making friends, where this child is faced with two seesaws, one seesaw being one person is already there, but the other seesaw is empty. If the child goes at the empty seesaw, then the avatar will come in and say, maybe you did not do the right thing, better you go to the seesaw too and ask permission to whether you can join him for and make friends. So these are different instances which we sort of project in front of the child and make the child interact with the avatar. So in fact, if the child clicks an option, the avatar walks into the environment. So very immersive feeling the child can get. The other interaction task was a context-relevant environment where the avatar describes his experience of different emotional expressions. For example, his trip to the park, and where he expresses his different feelings, and with different emotional expressions. It can be happy, it can be angry, it can be sad, it can be neutral, different expressions. And at the same time, we ask different questions, which I have already mentioned. Now, what's the role of physiology? What did we do with the physiology? In fact, in this study, we have acquired physiology from pulse breath program, which is at the fingertips, sort of a pulse oximeter, which we are using which is very common in this COVID days now. So from there, we can get the pulse rate or the heart rate. The electrodromal activity, it is how we are sweating, because that has a lot of relevance to anxiety. And also the skin temperature, what is my temperature of the skin. And these are the different equipments which we used in our study. Of course, there is an acclimatization stage, otherwise the children might have sensory issues. So we take care of all those before putting the child in the study. So I'll not go to these details. In fact, this is sort of the block diagram which we used in our study. So these were different types of AI engines which we used in our study, where it was only sometimes only performance based. So if my performance is good, I increase the difficulty. If my performance is bad, I decrease the difficulty. Or it can be, say, performance and anxiety. So in other words, if my performance is good, but my anxiety is, say, low, that means I can do my task. My ability, my task difficulty is much less than my ability. So I can increase the difficulty. But in contrast, if my anxiety is high, but I'm not being able to pick up, that means the task is too difficult for me, then I sort of reduce the difficulty. But in cases where my performance is adequate, but at the same time my anxiety is very high, which I am mapping from my physiology. My anxiety is very high, then maybe I give a second chance and see whether this is by chance. If not by chance, then that means the task is very difficult and the child is striving hard to keep up to the adequate performance. So in that case, we reduce the task difficulty. So in this way, we have offered different tasks. Of course, we have anxiety predictors in this, where literature shows that increase in heart rate, increase in sweating, decrease in body temperature, in fact implies anxiety level to be increased. We have used fuzzy-based engine in this process in predicting the anxiety of the child. Now, different participants took part in this study, and it was a group of 10 participants. Of course, we use SRS score, which is a social responsiveness scale score, social communication questionnaire, and Spence social anxiety scale. We have used these. So a brief of how the task proceeds. I hope you are able to see the video. So I'll skip portions. So this is how the system looks like. So these are the gadgets which we used in our study. This is the child is wearing the gadgets. This is how the physiology will look. The figure at the top shows how my PPG signal, that is my oximeter signal, is giving. The lowest figure will show my heartbeat rate. So now we start with the task. we give an initial screen, skip certain portions. Now, when you are ready, you start. Then the avatar comes in. Avatar starts introducing himself, and then the avatar is going into a school environment. So when the avatar goes there, obviously the options come in that do you want to run into the class? Do you want to ask permission? And we can choose different options. Also these can be touchscreen type. So, one of my studies, I have used touchscreen type as well. Say the person does run into the class, then avatar says with audio visual that it will disturb others. Please make another choice. So in this way, we sort of guide. So if you say that ask permission, go inside, then it says, okay, that's absolutely right. And the child goes and occupies a seat. And then the child comes out and sort of narrates what his experience is during the entire session, with different types of questions being asked. Where were you? That is context relevant questions, or where did you go? And in this way, the task proceeds. Now, the results indicate that my anxiety sensitive system, figure to the left, shows that I'll just bring up my laser pointer. So the anxiety sensitive system has given greater performance compared to the performance sensitive system. So the system was sensitive to the physiology based anxiety. The children have performed better. But for typically developing children, obviously we see a ceiling effect because they were good. They generally don't have issues with social communication. Now, for the interaction task 1, where it was mostly going through the scenarios, different types of scenarios and different challenges being presented, there also we could see the anxiety sensitive system perform better compared to the performance sensitive system. But when it comes to emotion recognition, children with autism face a lot of issues. And so you can see the performance have reduced a lot, but even then, when a single exposure, the anxiety sensitive system performed better than the performance sensitive system. For typically developing cases, irrespective of the type of task, you will see more or less very close ceiling effect. Now we wanted to see that we are telling, okay, the anxiety has reduced. Has it really reduced? What physiology had said? We can see that the electrodermal activity, pulse rate, and skin temperature changes very less. But the electrodermal activity, you can see there is a reduction. That means the child was feeling comfortable. But again, it's a performance sensitive. The comfort was not so much that he could interact or perform well enough to go to higher difficulty levels. But in the case of anxiety sensitive system, you can see that he was feeling comfortable in difficulty level 2 and his performance was going up. He went to difficulty level 3, but again, he felt uncomfortable because it was difficult. But soon he became comfortable, and again, he went to difficulty level 4 and he could interact with all tasks. The similar we will find in the case of interaction task 1 and interaction task 2, which is in all cases you will find that no matter it is different difficult situations or understanding emotions, the participants have done much better in the case of anxiety sensitive system because he was really comfortable. You can see in the case of the change in the parameters, particularly for angry, the child was, for an angry emotion, the child was tensed. And so for performance sensitive, you can see the electrodermal activity, that is the amount of sweating has increased. But for happy, he was comfortable. But in the case of anxiety sensitive system, you can see the values are much less. So he was much more comfortable, and that's why he or she was doing much better. So the next one is eye tracking based. So far we have been doing physiology sensitive based. Now we felt that let's see how what gaze has to say based on the social communication skill learning for children with autism. So this is to give an idea of why we use the eye tracking, because we want to understand where the child is looking. Is the child really looking towards the avatar space showing emotions, or he is looking somewhere else? And what is his blinking rate? How much he blinks? Because a lot of research has gone the way the child blinks under anxious conditions. And also how his pupil reacts, that is his pupillary dilation, what his pupillary dilation has to say when exposed to different stimuli. So you can, in this we have used eye tracker, and it's a goggles type of eye tracker. Also in our research, we have used remote extra mounted eye tracker as well. And it's a very well-known viewpoint eye tracker we have used in our research. So the child is it's a small data which I am presenting here. So the 3 children took part in this study. And here we had a story phase followed by a questionnaire phase. In the story phase, there was an avatar narrating a story to a participant and with proper gestures. And also there was environment, a sort of a virtual environment, context relevant virtual environment was there at the background. I'll show some pictures. It will become clear. And then it was followed by the questionnaire phase, where there was an interaction using menu-driven interface. We have also done touchscreen-based. We can also use voice-based. There are different modalities, followed by answering questions such as, again, context-relevant, projected contingent, or emotion recognition question. So this is sort of the environment. The avatar comes in, and the avatar narrates his travel to a sea beach, how he enjoyed the sunshine. And when the story goes on, the environment goes on changing. So it's a very immersive experience, followed by different types of questions being asked to the participant. Now, in this, we were more interested whether the child is looking towards the face of the avatar. So we divided our stimulus into 2 main parts. One is the face region and the rest of the stimulus, because there is literature or research which has shown that the child has a less tendency to look towards the social stimuli, but more towards the non-social stimuli. That is, they look less towards the face, and that's why they cannot capture the emotion of the speaker. So we wanted to see that. And then we wanted to see if we make our system sensitive to gaze-based matrices, that is to anxiety predicted from gaze, does it contribute to improved learning? So that is one of the research question which we were trying to address. So in fact, we wanted to see the blinking pattern, also how the pupils dilate, and also the fixation, that is how long do I look where. So we can see that this was the sort of the task. So the avatar, this is one of the examples. There were different tasks. The avatar came in, say the avatar has a birthday party, and the avatar first does a gesture with a greeting the participant, and followed by the narration of the story. And then after the short narration, the avatar goes on interacting with questions, answers, with questions posed to the students or to the participants, along with different emotional expressions. Now, the results are very interesting. So that is, you can see that this one is performance sensitive, and this diamond is the anxiety sensitive. So you can see different participants have interacted in different ways. So for the performance sensitive, a child was able to go only up to difficulty level 2, and then he sort of gave up. But for the anxiety sensitive system, the child could go up to the highest difficulty level, and he was literally continuing with the highest difficulty level. Again, in the case of participant 2, again we can see there is improvement, but of course there are plus and minus. For certain participants, we see that the participant was able to was again going down. He was not able to maintain himself at a higher difficulty level. Then we offered this participant more exposures, and the participant was doing good. So all of these thoughts came to our mind because we have seen, because I've worked very closely with therapists with intervention, a psychologist, and there I have seen these psychologists have an additional eye where they can understand whether the child is anxious, and that is what is float time therapy. They understand the anxiety and they tune their paradigm in such a way that the child can learn. And that was sort of the guiding thought which was leading me. So can I make my AI-based systems that can improve or that can bring in such qualities? Maybe not to a complete extent like a therapist, but at least to a certain extent. So that is sort of the research question I was sort of trying to search. So here you can see.
Excuse me, Uttama ma'am.
Yes,
Ma'am, after completion of this component, can we take a break of 2 minutes, because few people are raising their hands.
Yeah,
they have not put any comments. So maybe after completion of this section, if you can take a break of 2 minutes and we can just see what they want to say.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Right. So we could see that for when exposed to different emotional expressions, the anxiety-sensitive system gave a higher performance. Even for angry emotion, higher performance. For neutral emotion, higher performance. So there was an improvement of performance of the child, even when exposed to different emotional expressions in the case of the anxiety-sensitive system. We are telling that the child was comfortable, but is it so? We wanted to verify that. So we could see that the pupil dilation reduced. So literature shows that with a person being more anxious, actually the pupillary dilation increases. So pupil dilates. So we could see that for the anxiety-sensitive system, in all cases, irrespective of the type of emotion, there was a reduction in the pupil dilation. That means the child was really comfortable, and that's why the child was able to perform better. So the idea was that the anxiety-sensitive system reduces the anxiety, thereby fostering improved learning. So I tried to give a very brief on each of the studies. I'll go to this later because Dr. Rajput has indicated me that I should sort of go ahead, and I'll stop the sharing and I'll take up questions.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. A few participants have raised your questions, raised their hands. So if you have any comments, then only kindly make the questions. We will still take it at the end of the session. So if you want madam to reduce her pace of presentation or any such concern, you may share it now.
Yes.
Yeah. But otherwise, questions, ma'am, we will take at the end only. Because we really want to hear your presentation first. So the question answer we will take later on.
But there was a question. There was a question on did we use headset? No. In my research I have used both headsets and without headsets. These all 3 studies or 4 studies which I'm doing, I'm trying to avoid the headsets because I have seen children with autism have issues. They have sort of vomiting. They have perspective issues. That is, once they have the headset, they are cut off from the real world. And so that is sort of the problem which they face. So all these studies I am showing without headset, though my research experience had also been in using headset. So that was a question.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, there will be questions coming up. I think we will continue with your presentation, and we'll take more questions are there. We still have jotted down more questions from YouTube also. So
okay,
you kindly continue with your presentation.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So how much time do I have more? Is half an hour?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Half an hour. Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So the next one is, I wanted to see the EEG signal, because after all, I wanted to develop an alertness sensitive system, because the system is not anxious, the child is not anxious, the child is comfortable, the child is doing well, but is the child alert? So I started to try to probe the alertness through the brain physiology. So in one of our studies, we did with electroencephalography, but again, we did a single electrode because the child could not tolerate a number of electrodes. So it's a very simple single electrode based study, but we could get some very interesting results. In short, I'll try to share this here. So you know that from brain signal, we get different types of signals. From brain, we get different types of signals, sometimes theta, delta, alpha, beta, and these are of different frequency components. And so the manner in which they beat are different. And a lot of these signals can be very useful for understanding whether the child is relaxed, whether the child is concentrating, or whether the child is alert or stressed. These are very good measures. So as all of you mostly know, that we have different lobes in the brain, and where we get different types of signals from the brain, we have mostly concentrated on the last one, that is the beta wave, which is a very good indicator of alertness. And we have chosen the prefrontal frontal zone for this purpose, because that is the single electrode that we could access at that time. Now we have a number of electrodes and an EEG cap in our lab. Now we know that there's a cognitive concept of attention, and which has three main sort of parts or networks. I'll not go into those details here, but here out of these, we are mostly concentrating on the alerting network, so the alertness. In fact, it is the state, it is achieving maintaining a state of high sensitivity to incoming stimuli. This is what the definition, the literature definition goes. Now, why are we so interested with alertness? Because there is, you will find that if you, when we say a child has learned, how can we know that? We need a metric. Performance is a metric. And it's a very traditional approach. We say he has performed very well. He has got 90 out of 100. That means he has learned. Maybe is it or is it not? So that is where I was trying to do some further studies. In fact, performance improvement through practice or repetition, it will improve performance, but in the long run, maybe not. He will not be able to retain it. The child won't be able to retain it. It should be through alertness. So if the child is alert and absorbing the information, then obviously it contributes a lot to the performance. Of course, practice and repetition cannot be denied. These are also important. And literature shows that more the alertness, the greater the performance. And why we were so much interested to work in this direction, because we know children with autism have issues with alertness. Now, in this, we designed different types of tasks. One was a color identification task. This is because you find that children have issues with understanding colors, identifying colors or matching the colors. And this is a very good, there exists a very good cognitive link between the visual cues and words. So these are sort of steps to learning, sort of a picture-assisted learning. Very important. So here, I will try to show a small video to give a glimpse of how, so this is the task. So this is the type of task where we give a fruit and then we match the colors, and then we give a score, right? And at this time when the participant is playing, we tell the participant, we gather the beta wave of the participant and give challenges based on the alertness predicted from the beta wave. The other task was the position-based object selection, in which we were interested with color and shape both, and with specific positions, because these are very important for math and science to language and reading skills. Very important. And of course, we know that the early recognition of shapes relates to the child's ability to read symbols or letters, because they are good. We start with shapes. Often we start with shapes as a first step. This is the type of task. Again, I'll cut short. So you can see that we give an object. So if the person chooses north, then we say what type it is. Oh, it's the red circle. So the empty pattern gets filled up. So in other words, the child is asked to fill up the empty pattern as given in the template pattern. So these are quite few tasks which we offer to the children. And the last one was sort of emotion matching and emotion recognition. So there are two aspects to it. I have already spoken a lot on the emotion recognition. So rather than speaking on the details, let's go ahead to see how the task was designed. In fact, it consists of two parts. One is emotion matching, other is emotion recognition. So in emotion matching, where we give faces and we ask the child to match whether the two emotions are same or if they are feeling different. And in the emotion recognition task, we have two options. So I try to see, okay, in emotion recognition, there is an explicit emotion and there is an implicit emotion. Explicit emotion is understanding from facial emotional expressions. And the implicit can be an emotion is impregnated in the contextual picture. How do they respond differently? So let's see for the facial emotion. So again, we give a task, and the task where we are giving emotions and we tell the child to select the type of emotion. Right. And the other case is based on pictures, where we give certain stimulus and then we ask the child, then we ask the child to understand the emotion there. Like, so obviously it's a matter of fear. Some people are enjoying, people are fighting, so it's anger. So in this way, we give different tasks. And the tasks are changed based on the alertness level. So these are three different sort of difficulty levels which we give. In fact, literature shows, and which we have found also from our studies, that increase in core body temperature indicates that the child is comfortable and this child is alert, and the performance also improves. More the number of eye blinks, less the alertness. And also, more the beta band power in the EEG signal, more the alertness. So we were literally picking up the third one, that is, we were trying to make our system sensitive to beta band power. So we were more interested in the 12 to 20 hertz range, and also additionally we wanted to see how the blinking is changing. So we were focusing on the prefrontal cortex. So this is sort of the stimulus. We used a simple neurosky in our study, and we made our system physiology sensitive. Different participants took part in this study. Here you can see that the median, in fact, in this case, you can find for the typically developing also the alertness sensitive outperformed the performance sensitive. Also in the case of the autism, increase was less, but still there was an improvement in their case. But in this case, we have given only one exposure. We can also improve. Possibly we can improve by giving more exposures. So there was some improvement. In the case of the typically developing, we could see that the beta power is more or less the same, but it's high already, irrespective of the task. But in the case of the autism, we could see that for the alertness sensitive system, there was an increase in the beta power. So that means we were able to get more alertness from the child. And that's why there was an improvement. The last one is the collaborative virtual reality-based interactive social platform. I'll try to round up maybe another 20 minutes. So this is a task where till now, our participant was interacting one-on-one with the stimulus. Now I try to explore what happens if the child interacts in teams. What is the dynamics that I wanted to explore? It is a totally an AI-based engine which we have developed here. And here we were more interested with Is the child able to put himself or herself into the shoes of the other and understand others' perspective? And accordingly, we will offer tasks. So understanding others' mentality or perspective, what the person is thinking, what is his likes and dislikes, that is we were sort of trying to work on. So we know that these children have deficits in understanding others' preference, particularly on a topic of interest, and because of which their reciprocity becomes adversely affected. In fact, in conventional settings, I have seen the therapists work very closely with the child and in a collaborative task, such as in a painting task. So you will see here the real life contexts are being drawn. So the therapist will draw, say, the road. The child will draw the bus. The therapist draws the clouds. The child will draw the rainfall. And in this way, the therapist assists the child to think and understand, because the child should answer, oh, madam is actually interested on a regular bus trip when I'm going to school. So the child should understand. At the same time, the therapist should understand what the child is wanting, what the child likes. Right. And in this way, through turn taking, develop the story. And at the end, I have seen the therapist narrating the story to the child. So it will do where the educator will play the narrator's role, describing the story. So it's like a feedback given to the child. And this becomes very powerful for the child to learn. How can we make our virtual reality-based systems such systems with such facilities? That is sort of the research question I was trying to struggle. That is, again, he prefers somebody else, but it's okay. Let me try to support him. Let me understand let me try to understand what my friend's likes and desires are. So we were trying to search different literatures which are already existing. There are currently multi-user platforms which are there, but these do not feature mechanisms that can promote social reciprocity, coupled with an ability to understand another's performance on a topic of interest while executing a task collaboratively. So that is what we are trying to, that subtle touch which we are trying to bring in our research. So this is the sort of the design. I'll not go into these details, but maybe here I want to bring your attention towards the intelligent story developer engine. So it's ICE, which we are trying to develop. A very short I'll give here. I'll not go to the details of the system. So the task was, we offered on a stimulus, on the computer screen, there was a central canvas, which was an empty canvas, and at the side, there was a virtual object canvas. And the child can just drag and drop objects and populate the screen, the central canvas, and develop sort of connecting stories. So this was sort of the task. And we were giving different feedback. And it was through turn taking, where say two children are playing together, sometimes it's A's turn and sometimes it's B's turn. And they will develop a coherent story. That is what we were trying to work on. It can be multiple contexts as well. Say context 1, context 2, along with different types of feedback. So one of the important ingredients of this was the ICE module, that is the Intelligent Story Developer module, where we were giving different types of narratives. The narratives were 3 different types. One is component specific, which is a narrative of the object. For example, a beautiful fish is there, so the story can be framed around the fish looks very colorful, and this is context specific. And there can be relationship with other objects. For example, it can be parent-child specific. Why I'm giving parent-child? This is in computer science language, so I'm trying to develop a decision tree structure. So the parent-child specific, where there is a connection between the objects. For example, the fish is swimming in the flowing river. So there is a river and the fish is swimming. Or there can be exceptions where the child forgets the parent-child link and there is a miss in the link. For example, one of the friends have done valley, but the another child has straight away brought the fish. There is no water. Then obviously there is an exception being raised by the system. It says the fish looks very colorful, but where does it swim? So it's sort of giving a hint that somewhere you have done some mistake. And then ultimately we had a feedback session, and the feedback was of different types. One is a very implicit feedback where we are giving the feedback through exceptions, and the other is a very explicit feedback. The feedback can be, say, through explicitly through thumbs up and thumbs down, where the child gets an idea that, hey, I'm doing something wrong. And also there can be a cross feedback where we give stars. Because I have seen while working very closely with various special needs school, these children like stars. And this is a very good way of reinforcing their learning process. So we use stars and we give different stars based on how the child is performing. I will give a small video of our, so there are different types of, just try to increase the volume. I don't know whether you will be able to hear. Let's try. Sorry. So it's a totally AI-based engine which we have developed here. I don't know whether you are able to, yes. So the two children are populating the screen. They are dragging objects from the screen and they are, say, developing a railway station scenario. So you can see A's turn, B's turn, along with thumbs up, because all are getting thumbs up because they are developing the same scenario. So the child should understand my friend is liking the railway scenario, so let's go ahead with the railway scenario. Once over, they go to a different scenario, say a landscape scenario. And then obviously the screen splits into two, and in this way they start developing the entire story. Now once it's done, a virtual avatar will come and try to link the story components and develop a story, totally through AI. So you can see A's turn, B's turn, time over. An avatar will come So these are the components in a boat. So these are the types of tasks, and mind you, these are all done by populating. So it's like an AI engine at the back is sort of residing and sort of developing the story. So every time you will get different stories. Now we recruited different participants for this study. Again, we segregated them as per the SRS and SCQ scores. And we exposed a couple of players with them in the task. At the same time, This is all in virtual reality. So we wanted to know, outside the virtual reality, is there any improvement? Because that is what we care for. Why we are doing this? Outside, is it important? So we've used a picture card task, which we often use in conventional settings, where we offer different picture cards, and then we ask the child to develop a story out of that as pre and post, and try to see, so where the experimenter is there and the child is there, and then we sort of see whether the child is sort of do the task or develop the story through picture cards, because this is what is in real life. And we were checking for the cards chosen, are they chosen in the correct order, and what are the turn takings, that is whether they are taking the option of from the experimenter and giving their card. So sort of a social experience we were trying to explore. Again, we had two different phases, because I wanted to understand how the child interacts with the experimenter and the child interacts with another child. So, and both children are with autism. We had different tasks. So the two children will sit on two different consoles, and sort of they will do drag and drop, and they will populate, and every time everybody's screen is being populated simultaneously in a real-time manner. Now the results are very interesting. So you can see the red lines are for the autism, but the circle ones, these are for autism, the lower two, and the upper two are for the typically developing. And phase 1 and phase 2 are with experimenter and within the children. So you can see for the typically developing, there was a ceiling effect beyond a particular task, because they knew the art. But for the children with autism, they picked up slowly, but they could reach, and there was an improvement in their performance. Again, we could see in the case of the collaborative index. So we created a collaborative index, how they can collaborate on the task, whether the collaboration is good. Obviously, typically developing children could collaborate well, but children with autism, there was a distinction. We could see that with the experimenter, they gained further, because the experimenter sort of was assisting them. But even within the children, they were trying to understand, and there was an improvement. So in fact, our system was contributing to that improvement in their learning, in their collaborative effort. Also, as far as the card game was concerned, outside the virtual environment, we can see pre-assessment and post-assessment, there was an improvement in the ASD performance, both in terms of turn taking and also in the correct cards being chosen. As usual, for the typically developing, there was a ceiling effect. But our system, in fact, literally, even outside the virtual environment, there was an improvement in their collaborative endeavors. So that is sort of what we were trying to address. I end my presentation, but at the same time, I felt like these are the different types of research studies that we do at our lab. We have a number of patents. Some patents have already been approved. This is a quick glimpse of the type of work. I acknowledge all this research being done under the aegis of different funding agencies. Started with the DST Cognitive Science, and then there are national and international funding agencies who have supported my research. I'm grateful to them. This is a glimpse of my campus, the Sabarmati River, and this is our academic buildings. Here is my lab, and you can see sunshine on the Sabarmati River. It's a very beautiful campus. These are all the academic buildings, and there is a view of the river. This is our main pole, which becomes noticed from far away. This is the night view, which we have taken from an aerial shot. And thank you. And this is a view of my book, which Dr. Rajput was mentioning at the first, A Computational View of Autism. It's available. It has been published by Springer, and it has been accepted very well by different individuals around the globe. Thank you. With this, I end my presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I hope I've been to my time. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It is very much within time. And we would not have mind even if you would have taken a little more time, because this all whatever you are presenting was also interesting, was also new to us, and it was very interesting to know that with children with autism so many new things can be done and are being done. So it was very nice to know.
And they interact so well. It's like they are like jewels. I mean, I simply love these children.
Yeah, so that is, I think, one of our participants have asked a question through YouTube that when you are doing this, children with autism, that interactive behavior is one problem. So, how did you find? What was your experience when you were working with children with autism? Like, were they able to understand this virtual context, and how were they responding to it? What were your requirement?
Right.
Because there was also this dragging component into it. So did you make them prepare advance so that they can use the system and all? What preparations you had to do and what challenges you might have faced and overcome, of course. So we would like to hear about that.
Nice. That's a very good, very relevant point. So, so there are two aspects to it. One is using of physiology-based sensors, and the other is using of VR. So there are two different aspects. So we know that the children have sensory issues. So before starting to work, I generally give my sensors to the children to play, to make themselves accustomed. So where I told we acclimatize the children. So I generally give them a day before, and they start playing around, and they sort of become comfortable. And I have seen, in fact, these children tell their parents, please take a picture of me, I'm looking like a scientist. So they really love it during the studies. And the other component is VR. So we give demo games. So sort of demo games for them to play. And sometimes we install our setup in the school. I go regularly to the school. I work very closely with special needs schools here. And I sort of give them and ask the children to play and become comfortable. And I can see that in many of the cases, the children say that, because they generally have a very good tendency or a very good interest to interact with computers. I don't know, they are very comfortable with computers, very unexpected. And they feel so comfortable, and they tell, with one exposure, they tell, oh, I'm ready, give me the task. So, and of course, I try to do the games very interactive, where they have to simply drag and drop or click buttons, so that their interaction with the task is as smooth as possible.
Yeah, there is one more question regarding the speech and voice component.
Mm-hmm.
So persons with autism, their speech has a very typical characteristics, where either they use some sounds or words which are nonsense for typically developing population, and sometimes they don't make sense. So our one of the participants, they want to know whether these sounds and voices can be used as an indicator for autism, and how, if at all you have done some study on that speech recognition or voice recognition, what are your experiences about it? And yeah.
Right. So I have specifically not worked with the speech part of these children, but there are studies where they say that if you convey, and I can name the researcher, if you convey your message through songs or music, they can capture very well. This is on the receptive part. But understanding their speech remains as an open problem, of course, and which I have not worked. But I would love to work on it.
Yeah. Ma'am, will you please repeat your answer? I just lost. I hope that others might have
Okay. Okay, surely, surely. So, the speech has two parts. One is communicating the information to the child, and the other is taking the information from the child. So, when it comes to communicating the information to the child, if you give information in the form of music, songs, they can capture the information very well. But when it comes to taking the speech information from the child and making meaning out of their syllables or words, this is again a very interesting area of research which I have not worked on it yet.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. I'll be using some other device to have a conversation with you.
Okay.
So, ma'am, now I would request few of our participants, they are raising their hands and they really
Yes.
want to ask, I think, few questions. So we can take few questions directly from the participants.
Surely. I have time.
Yeah. So any of the participants, if you want to ask any question, you can unmute yourself and you can ask your question directly, please.
Please.
We can take few questions directly.
Hi, I'm Neelima.
Ma'am,
Yes.
Ma'am, my son is 12 years old.
Mm-hmm.
He's very good in speech and communication, everything is fine.
Mm-hmm.
But when we have some social gatherings or when we have some guests or relatives comes to our house, he feels a bit not comfortable to talk with them, and he don't want to come to any functions or gatherings. So even I try many times to tell him, he can understand, but when the situation comes, his mind he goes into that one and he feels irritation and all. So is this software helpful to me? Like if I install and if I show to him like this kind of videos and all, does it helpful to him?
Madam, let me tell a brief, very short experience. I'll not name that child. Very sweet little girl. She was almost 9 years old at that time, and she used to tremble in one of the special needs schools. And even while speaking to others, she was not able to speak. Very sweet little girl. But after 3 years, so she was working with us. I was working very closely with that child for 3 years here in India. And I could see by the age of 12, she was performing on stage. So I could see a lot of change by interacting with such systems. Only thing is that you have to acclimatize him to such scenarios where, because he is not interacting with others from the fear of negative response. That's the only thing which is happening in him, which I feel. The negative response which he will get from the others, that is what is irritating and that is what is preventing him from interacting with others. So if he plays with these types of real life situations in VR, I have seen a lot of improvement. Even in US, I have been working with a child who was homeschooled, could not tolerate speaking to others, and not name that child. And then he was one of the top rankers in a music school in his own school. He was going to school regularly. So VR-based training helps, I should say.
So how to take this training, man? Do we need to come like walk into your office or?
No. So this is all developed through research. These are not commercial packages. So if you feel that you want to install, get a feel of it, and I can ask my students to help you out, and maybe you can try out for the past 2 to 3 months, and then maybe we can see how things goes on, because I'm in an academic institute. I can speak to my institute, but maybe you can start getting a feel of it, and for that, I think so you can go ahead. There shouldn't be any issue. Just you can drop me an email.
Professor
Yeah, sure.
Lahiri,
Yes.
I'm Sumit Roy calling from Bhopal. I'm a clinical psychologist practicing for the last 37 years.
Nice.
I should congratulate you for this lovely work. As a technically so sound a person and working for persons with disability, this has been excellent. But what I'm really keen on is, as a practitioner,
Yes.
can we actually have a device, can we have a software to diagnose is one, so to diagnose persons with ASD, and second, can we have a kind of a training program devised for them, which we like this lady was asking just now, like can we when can we expect this to be available online, or available commercially?
So the collaborative environment is something which we have already applied for patent. I think so we can go to the next stage. I would need partners, myself being a faculty member. I would need partners who can take it to the next stage. That shouldn't be a problem, and I can speak to my institute. We can commercialize it. But before even commercializing, to get a feel, because it's my research interest, my research flavor, which I enjoy, and we can share small sort of links, and there maybe we have a setup on our main server at my lab, and then maybe you can access it from my lab. Of course, I have to speak to my institute, and in that way, we can sort of try to give you access for a certain amount of time. And then if everything goes positive, everything goes fine, then maybe we can go into discussions with the institute. And my institute is very prompt in these, and it's helping me a lot in my commercialization. We can take the word forward. So this is your second question. The first question is, which I have not presented here, bigger study, is with joint attention. I have done a full-fledged study with joint attention, and it is very heartening to tell that the joint attention virtual reality-based task shows a statistical difference between mild autism, severe autism, and healthy individuals. So you can see a lot of difference in the joint attention task, again developed with VR, which might be a good way of sort of the screening for autism. But of course, you are much more knowledgeable than me in the psychology, which I have to learn from you. And maybe we can join hands and make our system much more foolproof. And I look forward to such interaction and learning.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Can you share your email address, please?
Yes, please. Yes, please. So, Dr. Rajput, can you please help me?
Sure. I'll do that.
I look forward.
And ma'am, I would say you're very humble to say that you're very new to the field of psychology. I mean,
no way close to you, psychologists. No, never.
Seeing all your work, so detailed research and this evidence-based things that you have come up with for us, I think it is something beyond our pure academic. I think it's more just beyond just
interest. Yes, it's more beyond interest. And in fact, I remember.
I mean, it's not really just the academic work; it's more the passion that we can see in your work and.
So I just spent time at Peabody campus. So my Peabody campus was quite close to my Vanderbilt, and there I used to work with psychologists, and I used to go very frequently to them to learn, just observe and learn from them. So many things to learn from you psychologists. So I used to do that.
Yeah, hello, ma'am.
Yes.
Can I? Yeah.
Yes, please.
So this is Kunal from Center for Development of Advanced Computing, ma'am, CDAC Kolkata.
Nice,
So Kitty madam representing NIEPID, we together collaboratively have been working in this area for some time, and I have a small team with us. Our
Very
seniors
nice.
are also here. There's Sonesh sir from CDAC Noida. There's Soma
Nice.
madam also. Then there's my other team members. So
Wow.
we from CDAC, we congratulate you for this very
Thank you so
beautiful
much.
work. And we also been trying to work in this area. And what I would want to know, ma'am, some few of the things like what is the area of children? Means there is mild, moderate, and severe autism children. We found that these children are less interactive. So how do you find them to cooperate when you are working with your system? And then start with this, ma'am.
Right. So there are two aspects to it. One is you can make your system through a mainframe, very good, top-notch, high, technically intensive system. Another can be a system where you are developing on a tablet, say, and you are using the computer camera for capturing the eyes. So once I develop these systems, I try to put it into a tablet so that I give the tablet to the school. And then the children play around with the tablet and they become very comfortable. So this is one of the ways I have seen that I can reach to these children.
Okay.
The other way is, say I am doing an EEG, I try to make the EEG cap, say with Mickey Mouse at the topping, so that they feel happy with the Mickey Mouse cap, but actually I have my electrodes already there.
Right.
So in other words, if you can develop your gadgets in a way that is lucrative or very attractive to the children, they will sort of wear that gadget to serve your purpose. At the same time, they will not be distressed in using that gadget. So that is what sort of I try to do in my studies. So very non-invasive or remote, playing with computers. This is what they prefer. So
Yes.
that is what I try to do.
So we have been also trying to have a diagnostic type system, just as sir was saying, Sumit sir was saying. So it's based on the visual cues like facial expression and eye gaze, visual attention, and also there is vocal emotion part also,
Very nice.
which our speech part is working on. We are from the image processing part of
Very nice.
CDAC Kolkata, having some AI system. But
Very nice.
here we are creating some stimuli response based system. And here and what we are trying to, the prescription we are trying to follow is the INSA, means Indian Scale for Autism Assessment. There are around 40 parameters there. And out of this 40, we have found some of the visual cues can be addressed through some of the parameters. Vocal emotion part also that can be done. But we are finding some challenges regarding the stimulus design to get the responses out from these children. So can you shed some light, ma'am, your experiences can you share regarding this? Yeah.
Right. So there are something called as the Ekman faces, Ekman stimulus.
Yes, Ekman,
you
right,
already
right.
know.
Ekman and Friesen, right?
Yes.
Renowned there, right?
Yes. So here, in fact, so you will get many stimulus on the net, but these are mostly Western faces, which I cannot use. Right.
Yes.
So I sort of use FaceGen and try to build faces and with photos of Indian children, so that it's very much they look like Indians. Yes. And then I try to create the faces. I do morphing, sort of, you will understand since you are from this area. I sort of morph on the 3D graphics and then sort of wrap it and give emotions, because emotions means you are actually triggering certain FACS. So facial features.
Action coding. Right.
Action coding, you got it.
Right.
The different facial muscles to generate happy, angry, neutral. You can just easily program them, and or you can use. I use very often is Wizard from WorldBiz. That is what I have been using for the last almost 14 years. A Python-based coding, where you can very easily develop very standardized systematic. So it has to be standardized, and you can control the degree of smile, the degree of anger, or sometimes there are mixed emotions like
Anger with sadness or
Yes.
happiness with some
Yes.
form of a, right?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
And you will find that these children have more tendency to look towards the mouth where there is a biological motion rather than
Yes.
towards the eyes.
Right.
So they will be able to understand the smile better rather than anger or sadness, because anger and sadness more or less both are on the eyes.
Right.
So they tend to miss that. That you can control very easily through such programming interfaces.
Okay, so the facial means animated type stimulus, is it okay for the children to capture their imagination? Do you feel animated faces are okay, or the real life faces as in stimuli form should be the correct way?
So what I do animation on real faces. So that is what I was trying to tell. So real faces I generate, I design faces.
Okay.
And then I design the torso of the avatar. I design the attire as per Indian attire. And then it looks like absolutely, I design the hairs, Maya 3D, sort of I use. And then sort of I try to bring it in the virtual reality. I port it in a particular format. And then I use it with animation, programmatic animation. So programmatic animation on real images.
Okay. And these type of systems, I think, is very much relevant during these pandemic times, ma'am. And this is becoming a norm because normal schools are now are really not that way.
Yes.
So these type of systems will really be helpful. It's a very good work, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Would love to collaborate.
Yes, surely, ma'am. I would, through Kirti madam, try to contact you, ma'am. Surely.
Yes, of course. Yeah. Looking forward.
Yeah, ma'am. Actually, in our initial Google Meet, we had a small brief discussion about this program, and I take this opportunity to share that NIEPID and CDAC, both in collaboration, are working on digitalization of the assessment, and we are just making attempt. Seeing, as Kunal sir correctly said, and even your work obviously proves it, that in this given pandemic situation now, everyone is getting turned into digitalization, and this is going to be a near future, so we are working on that.
True. And in fact, madam, so there are, even in eyes, so the IU giving, so there are different types of eye looking patterns. Like sometimes it is straight gaze, sometimes it is normal gaze. Normal is like mix of averted and straight gaze.
Fixated circuit vision.
So all of these things we have emulated in VR.
Right.
So all these are possible.
Yeah, it would be a good learning from you, ma'am, regarding this. We are into the AI field, fine. We are capturing facial emotions. We are capturing eye gaze. We are using Tobii eye tracker to capture these. But the VR part of it is totally a new one. It's really a mind-boggling one. We would like to really learn from you how your approaches are, your methods are.
Would love to interact with you and learn as well from you all.
And CDAC has this opportunity, ma'am, to get funds for this type of projects. In fact, we are trying a BCI-based system also, brain-computer interaction-based system. So we would really look forward to collaborate with you to work together, because pioneers like you in our country would really help us in this direction. We are technical persons, you are from the academic side.
Right. And it's a very good work hand in hand. It would be. We need technical partners like you all.
Yes.
It's very important.
Ma'am, now considering the time, I think we'll stop. I know there will be more questions keep coming. This is a very new topic for many of us. I'm very happy that we have professionals from disability rehabilitation. We have professionals from engineering background. We have parents joined us. We have trainees who are going to be the future professionals in the field. And I'm very glad to have such a wide variety of participants with us. With this, we will stop here with the technical session, and I take this opportunity to thank Professor Uttama Lahiri ma'am. It was our pleasure to have you as a resource person, and you accept our invitation, you gave your time, and it is, I was thinking that this is going to be a technical session and how we are going to merge these two fields, but you made it so simple and so easy to comprehend. Thank you so much, ma'am. For giving this very mind-boggling and enlightening session. I also thank our participants to attend the whole session very actively. They ask questions, and of course they have appreciated this session. Thank you so much for all your participation, active participation in this.
Yes, very much.
Yes, yes. Thank you. And so ma'am, again on behalf of NIEPID Regional Center Kolkata and on behalf of CDAC team as well, because this is going to be a very learning thing
Yes.
for the project purpose for the thing as well. So I thank you so much.
Thank you.
So much.
So many of the participants are asking for the email ID. So I
Yeah.
think if you can pass on my email ID.
Yes, ma'am.
I would love to be, and we can form a team like CDAC, your organization, and IIT Gandhinagar. We can form a team. I would cherish such associations.
Sure, ma'am. Sure. We'll do that, ma'am. We'll surely do that, ma'am. Yeah.
Bye bye.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. Yeah.
So I log out from this.
That's fine, ma'am. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Yeah. Bye, ma'am. To all the participants, I would say that the feedback link is already mentioned in the chat box. You are requested to kindly fill the feedback form. Those who will fill the feedback form, we will be sharing this participation certificate with all of you. In the feedback form, we have also kept option for your additional comments. So if you want any additional topics to be discussed regarding this in future, if you have any suggestions, kindly add those. Thank you so much for joining and for your active participation. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Ma'am, can you give the email ID of the ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. I'll